All right. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to have you all here in this snowy morning, but it's good that we all could make here to TSS. Good morning to all of you that are with us over the internet as well. Today we're going to have a beautiful lecture talking about without charity there is no salvation. Soon it's going to show up on the screen. Don't worry. Patrick is working on it. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. And the lecture is going to be given by our friend Marco. And it's a good topic for us to start the year and set the mood for this 2026. But as always, before we do our lecture, we are going to start with our reading and our initial prayer. Okay, so our reading is going to be done by our friend Danielle.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, is there something I have to worry about?
No, you can just read it.
I thought I had to wait for something. Sorry. Silly me. Okay. I'm going to start the reading of Happy Life. Examine how much time you devote each day to your spiritual life. You work, get distressed, and amuse yourself. To eat, sleep, and you dedicate a few minutes to the incarnated spirit. In a rapid prayer, a little reading, or you hear a talk, but at times you do none of these things. Man is only the body and the mind. Above all, he is a spiritual being who directs the body and mind, implements and demands spiritual attention to carry out the tasks that fall to him. The body needs to care to live, but so does the soul.
And with this beautiful reading, let us all close our eyes and elevate our thoughts to God, our Creator, to Jesus, our Master. And let's thank for the opportunity of being here today. Thank the spirits that are protecting us here right now. And ask them to help us and guide us through all the lessons that we're going to be listening today, so we can learn a little bit more of the laws of love and charity that our Master Jesus brought to us. May also the good spirits here enlighten Marco during his lecture. And so be it.
But we have time to, make this happen. Okay. All right. So thank you everyone for coming. In this snowstorm, orange warning, kind of cold day. It's amazing to see all of you guys here. Some of our faces that we see all the time. Some faces that we're seeing again after a long time, right? It's so nice to welcome you guys again. And today, because we're starting the new year, new calendar year, we decided to choose a few topics that are almost like our basic principles of what we study and what we do, right? And because of that, Teresa and I, when we're setting out some topics, we decided, you know what, let's talk about things that are really essential, right? Nothing fancy, nothing complicated, just like literally basics, okay? And today we're going to be talking about basically chapter 15 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is without charity, there's no salvation. That's right. And in this chapter, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, there's a combination of different. There's a combination of different passages that are analyzed by the spirits and commented by Allan Kardec, which basically brings the whole essence of what Spiritism is, right? Which is the concept of charity, right? So in the beginning, we start with a very known passage, right? And it starts like this. I'm just going to read straight from the Gospel. We're going to analyze that, right? But having found, and this is by Matthew, okay? But having found out that he had put the Sadducees to silence, the Pharisees got together, and one of them, who was a doctor of the law, came, asked this question of him in order to test him. So he was like testing, right? The Master Jesus, right? Master, what is the greatest commandment of the law? Jesus replied, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. That is the greatest and first commandment. And there's a second, which is similar to that one. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And then he ends by saying that all the law and the prophets are contained in these two commandments. So if you were to pick something that summarizes pretty much everything we do, that's exactly what Jesus brings to us and said all the law and the prophets together. Like literally, he's saying to us that everything you know about, the Gospels and understanding of the teachings of my teaching, the teachings of God through me to Jesus, are contained in these two commandments. This is an interesting way of presenting this because that is something we do quite often nowadays with complex topics, right? Anytime we have something that is, something that's very complicated, we try to break it down from very simple steps, right? And we try to create summaries, and now we use AI for that, right? It's kind of interesting. So now you can have AI on your Zoom meetings, right? It will create a summary and agenda, like everything, and then just send it all back into your calendar, and and everything's done, right? It's incredible, right? And we're gonna move to do more and more of that to a point that a lot of tests that we spend a lot of time trying to word it are gonna be done automatically, right? This is kind of a similar idea, because obviously the doctor of the law, going back in time now, is someone who had this training or position, right? As a well-studied, well-resourced person, right? Who had the ability of interpret the law kind of above everyone else. It was always a reference point, right? So this is a doctor of the law. This is the person who studied, and knows about this, right? Now, Jesus at the time, remember, he's a carpenter from a small town that was starting to gather people and talk about, the Old Testament, right? Talk about the commandments and the prophets. So of course, spirituality is working hard, and the incarnate spirits too. So all working together in a mediumistic environment. Okay, there you go. So when the doctor of the law approaches him, it's not in a way that the doctor of the law wants to learn. Quite the opposite. This is exactly the same scenario. Oh, there you go. See? It's exactly the same scenario. I think we're in the next slide after that. Okay. Where someone wants to test another person, right? Someone who knows a lot, wants to ask a question in a way to put the other person down, not to actually learn or to do anything. But as you can see in the entirety of the Gospels, every time that happened, Jesus would use his incredible wisdom, right, to answer in a way that he's polite, he's well understood, he summarizes complex information into very simple steps, and then any person in that room, whether it's a well-known gentleman that knows all the law, to the person who's there which knows nothing about the law, all of them got the information in an accurate way. And this is a lot of, us like professors, right, do, people that are studying, doctors do too when they're trying to deliver information, right? We do it all the time when we're working in information services and all kind of, like, we always try, we're a manager position, whatever we're doing, we're always trying to deliver information effectively, right, in a way that's comprehensible and it's widely accessed to everyone and everyone can understand. And you have to do it in not in a power position, but also in a kind and equal footprint, right? So this is exactly what he's done. So he condensed all the information in two things, right? So he's almost saying that, dear doctor of the law, I know you know a lot, but let me make this thing very straightforward to you. You have to love God. In other words, the laws of God, which we're going to talk about in a minute, right? And love your neighbor as yourself. Because into that component of the 2 points he brought up is all the idea of love and charity, and everything goes into that bin, right? So it makes it very simple, right? But I know it's very simple for us to say that, but it's kind of complicated to implement that. It's almost like you have a project which looks beautiful, but now you're going to implement it, right? That's when you actually find the quirks behind your original idea, right? And then you have to work hard to make it happen. Like, everyone implementing projects know what I'm talking about. It's not as, the original meeting sounds very more exciting than the implementation meetings, right? So it's, we can go to the next slide. Okay. But I also like Paul, right?
Oh.
And the letter of Paul to the Corinthians, right? Then remember Paul, the guy that transformed himself?
Who's Corinthians?
Yes, he wrote a letter to them. We'll
Who's
talk
the
about it.
Corinthians?
This is what he's going to say. Charity is patient. Wait a second. So now we're talking, so we came from Jesus splitting it down like in two bins, let's put it this way, that you have to follow through. And now Paul gives this extra information on one of those bins. He's saying that charity is patient. In other words, the act of love, which is the concept of charity, requires you to be patient, kind, benevolent, right? So the way you do it, the way you implement it, makes a difference. That's what Paul said, right? Charity is not envious. It's not rash. It's not hurried, right? Charity is not like, okay, let's get this done and done. I don't care. Like, let's move it on. No, that's not all of that, right? It's not like I'm gonna do it because someone else is doing it. Like, no, we'll do it kindly, patient, in a benevolent way, right? It's not full of pride, right? It's not scornful. It does not look at its own interests. And the more you read this, you can read this probably 100 times, and you can kind of get the sense of what's going through Paul's mind at that time, right? Because what he's trying to say to the Corinthians is that what God really told us, and Jesus explained to us in such a perfect way, is that we have to change ourselves in a constant, continuous way to achieve what this true charity and love is, right? In other words, being more patient every day. And he's a great example, right? He is this gentleman and was an all-powerful, all-knowledge person within the hierarchy of the church at that time, the Jewish faith at that time, in the temple, and becomes like a tent maker, right? Living in the desert, out of his own work, and in a very difficult scenario. So he is the example of that. He's like exemplifying what he's saying in this letter, right? Don't worry, be kind, benevolent, and move on every day, moving a little bit towards that end goal, right? So charity does not take offense or become upset by anything. This is so powerful. Because sometimes we're saying, you know what, I have an idea, right? And I'm going to do something really, really good. And then you go do it. And then you realize that, some people don't see that the same way, right? Or, the society doesn't give you the rewards you want. Or people are not going to say, wow, you're so good. People are going to say, yeah. And then you become offended. It's like, well, wait a minute. I'm doing so much. Why is God treating me like this? We do this all the time. Right? So that's exactly what Paul is getting to us. He said, it does not take offense. So it does not matter anything else. What matters is that action of benevolence and charity. Have you done your part? So awesome. That's good. Right? Take it. Don't worry. Don't worry about anything. Oh, but I've done all that and the person threw it away. I'm offended by it. No. Why? Right? We've done our part. Right? Charity does not suspect evil. Right? In other words, charity is not in any way to be used or masqueraded like for purposes that are not necessarily strictly good or charitable or good or charitable, right? It does not rejoice in injustice, okay? But rejoices in the truth. It bears all things. So it doesn't matter any scenario you can possibly imagine, there's a way for you to put loving in action or be charitable, right? It believes in all things and it hopes for all things. So see, this is so much more powerful than us just giving something to someone, right? It endures all things. So in other words, if you really put inside yourself the idea that I have to work every day to help others, nothing else matters. You can endure all things. You can hope for the good all the time, right? Now, these three virtues remain: faith, hope, and charity. But among them, the most excellent or important in this case is charity. Wow. So it's almost like an ode to charity, right? That Paul is doing, right? He's basically telling us that from his own perspective of a man that transformed himself in a one single incarnation kind of thing. Of course, it was not, but in our eyes, that's what it looks like. He's telling us that do not worry about anything. Just do what you got to do. And the most important one is to work for the good of others, no matter what you do, and no matter where you do it, and no matter how you do it. Because that in itself rejoices with the truth of what you're doing, right? That's what that connection is so powerful. Okay. Now, Paul is an interesting character. We all know that, right? And we can read a lot and study a lot about Paul. But the concept of this letter that he's writing to the Corinthians, which is the early churches that he's working on and he's helping develop throughout the region, right? So he's trying to infuse some of that energy into this early churches, right? We didn't call those churches at the time. Those are basically communities of people getting together just like this and try to study and review things and get things done. And it's a really like a grassroots type of movement, right? At that time, all these terms that we use today of Christianity and this and church, they didn't really exist for these people, right? There's a literally group of people that got together that believed in the same thing. So he's trying to give to these people that concept of, don't worry about your walls, don't worry about this, don't worry about that, worry about this, because charity is patient, right? You can endure things. See, now you can make sense, right? It speaks the truth, it bears all things. So anytime that you feel like you can't do it, think about how much you can do helping another person through charity, right? That's what Paul is summarizing to that part. But Paul continues, right? And this is a comment from Allan Kardec. Because Paul also said, even if I were to speak the language, this is a very well-known passage, right? Even if I were to speak the languages of the angels themselves, if I were to have the gift of prophecy and grasp all mysteries, if I had all the faith possible to the point of moving mountains, but did not have charity, I would be nothing. I cannot find a most powerful concept, explanation, and understanding of charity than Paul brings to us in this. Right? Because Paul cannot be more clear. Just like Jesus was super clear, separating at the time that, listen, doctor of the law, here's the thing, there's two things you have to worry about. Right? Now Paul is bringing to us, wait a minute, more than that, even if you think you're so good at anything, like you're like perfect, you understand everything, but you're not actually doing that for others, in the goal of like improving humanity, in the goal of like making sure that all spirits are going to be perfect one day. If you're not working with all your gifts, your talents, remember the parable of talents, same, right? If you're not putting those talents into action to do something different for others, then you'll be nothing, right? If all we're doing with all the gifts, and that's what Paul's saying, remember that time was around the time that all the disciples are going places and speaking tongues. I remember the spirituality is allowing them to say things in different languages and explain things in different ways. This mediumistic phenomena happen all the time. This is a really, really powerful and an active moment in early Christianity, right? But he's saying that if you're not doing that with charity, in other words, the act of love towards your neighbors, then you'll be nothing. You'll be just another person with empty words. But then you could probably think, wait a second, so, but this is the past. This happened like 2,000 years ago. And I'm like, no. This is where we disconnect what Paul is telling us to what we are right now. And it's very easy to figure that out. So how many people with the gifts that are absolutely incredible, right? The gifts of oratory, of knowledge, right? Of creativity, right? In engineering and all those things. How many of those we can tell in our minds, we don't have to say their names, but that are doing it without the concept of charity behind? It happens all the time. We have thousands of those examples. But when you pick those same concepts of people who have absolutely incredible gifts and actually do things on a daily basis to improve things to others as their main principle, in other words, using charity as your backbone, then that number reduces quite a bit, right? Then your examples will be kind of limited. That's what Bo is saying, right? Or in the churches now, because he's writing to the church, right? In the churches where we are right now, we talk about the power of faith. We talk about moving mountains. We talk about this all the time, right? But Paul is saying that even if you had that, you still wouldn't be able to fully fulfill our position in the world today, which is to make the entire world a better place, the world of regeneration that we talk about. And then we hear about these things like, oh, we're moving, transition to the world of regeneration. So things will be perfect now. I'm just going to literally step into this world and everything's good. No. A transition is a process where we change. It's not that the wall is going to change. This wall is going to be the same in the world of regeneration. No difference. we are changing and the planet's changing. So both of us are changing at the same time, right? Spiritually and physically in that sense. But if we are not changing, then we're actually not part of the generation. We're going to be slightly moved to the sidelines of that process, right? So for those who are still waiting for a generation to come so I can feel a lot better in this world, sorry to say, it's already started. And if you're not into it, you're out of it, kind of thing, right? In other words, this is the time that we're being called to change, to move, to be better, to work hard every day. That's okay. We're gonna fall down. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna step up again, and we're gonna go through these cycles. But we still have to move forward. And the concept that is most important, that's what Paul brings now: charity, right? So, and then Allan continues, and hence, without any doubt, Paul places charity above faith itself, because charity is within everyone's reach. Why is this so important? How many people you know that have tremendous faith, tremendous, but no action? How many people? I know a lot. Who could be every day somewhere, religious institution, pray a million times, do all sorts of things, but presents an empty box of treasures. You know, there's nothing in there to show. That happens all the time. And it's not in other churches. It's actually right here in Spiritism. Because that's another thing, right? For some reason that I still don't understand, people that start to study Spiritism automatically believe that they're really superhumans, right? It's like, oh, I know a lot. I'm so good now. Oof, I know like mediumship, you know? And then you're like, okay, so what have you done? Like, nah, you know, nothing, right? But I know it. It's cool, you know? Yeah. Objects can show up. It's like, oh, I'm some sort of divine entity, right? So it's not pointing to others. We should look in ourselves, right? So how many great spiritists out there that we actually follow their lectures all the time, but you find a disconnect between action and words. It happens. It happens, right? And how many spirits out there that you have no idea because they're not giving lectures online, but they show a lot of things on the charity side. How many? Cool. Everybody has gifts, right? You should use them, like Paul said, right? And I kind of put myself in there because, you know, I'm also, every day I'm thinking like, what else? What should I, like, I'm always questioning myself. Like, yes, I can do things, but let's get it done and let's do things that help us. Like, I can't. It's almost like every day I'm going through this process, right? Of like, what else can we do, right? And then he continues, right? The ignorant and the learned, the rich and the poor, because it is independent of any particular belief system. So charity can happen. Someone can say, oh, I don't believe in God at all. I'm an atheist. Okay? But I help everyone in my community. Hello? That's fine, right? Isn't that the practice of what God exactly tells us to do? So it doesn't matter if they say they believe it or not. They're actually doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Fantastic. One day they'll learn about it. It's fine. Everybody has its own time, right? That's a lot better than the ones that kneel down and pray every single day. I don't care about anyone else. That's what Paul's telling us. See? It's the practice that counts, right? And he continued. He does even more. Paul, even more. He defines true charity. He shows that it is not only displayed in beneficence, but in the gathering of all qualities of the heart, in goodness and benevolence towards one's neighbor. So, benevolence to others. Right? But now, we live in a world now it's a little bit slightly complicated in a lot of topics, right? One, for example, is like all this idea of this political social movements that more and more try to uh, isolate certain populations and people and countries in different ways than others, and sees the world as this almost like a binary system that if you're not like me, you're no good, right? This is a concept that has been in humanity since it started, right? If you're not in my tribe, I can kill you, kind of thing, you know. So that same spirit, it's still incarnated today, and now he's doing that with other people, like people that look different, people that immigrate, people that, you know, they still do that, right?
Is it like what happened yesterday?
Yes, I'm gonna get to. Oh, you're so good. You read my mind. Okay. So, and for example, yesterday we had another horrible, horrendous example of that, right? When through, you know, our neighbors down south, right, and through this political social movement that developed out of that concept, right, mistreating other people, right, because of any reasons you can find, right, either race or faith or political beliefs, like whatever you choose on that arsenal of words that they use, right? Someone's going to eventually suffer from that or lose their life because of that, right? And it's difficult because yesterday I was with the kids at home, and this is a great example kind of to illustrate that. So, like, I pick up my phone in the morning while I'm having fun, I read the news. What happened to me? My mental vibration goes like deflated, right? It happens. Can't control it. Like the mind's like, oh my god, I can't do that. So I start to feel really, really down, like almost like sick, right? Of like connected to that energy. And then I realize, they remember that, right? Then I realize that, you know, you can't do that, right? So I bring the kids into the room. It's like, kids, here's what happened today. That is really sad. Like about the, and I explained everything, right, Daniel? And I said, here, we can't go there and change anything, but we can do one thing. We're going to pray for these people, right? But we're not praying only for the guy that discarnated, because I'm sure there's like a battalion of spirits helping that guy. I'm sure there's going to be support for him and his family. But I'm going to pray for them, of course, anyways, because he's a victim. They're suffering. We need to help them. But I'm also going to pray for all the people who are involved in that act. That's the hard thing to do. But you see, because I'm praying for them now to say, you know, maybe something can go there and infuse some good ideas in their minds and make this change. Because we need that to happen. Because if you go into the idea of judging, like I project negative thoughts there and good thoughts here, listen, you're not moving anywhere. That's what Paul's telling us. See, Paul tells that. See, charity is now going to read again. You got to understand. See, charity is patient, kind, and benevolent, not envious, not rash, not hurried. It's not full of pride. See, it's not scornful. See, now I got it. I said, oh, thanks, Paul. Now I get it, right? Because I myself was like, yeah, of course, charity is all this. Like, what are you, Paul? Like, what are you talking about? Charity is great, right? But then when I was put in the scenarios, like I'm presented with this, I connected to the negative side of the story, right? And I found myself sending darts to whoever's involved in this thing and getting connected in this super loaded cycle of negative energy, right? I realized the way to break it is exactly what Paul wrote. Charity is not related to this. Charity is basically loving everyone and helping everyone. Of course, I'm not going to go there, hug them, and say, "Oh, I'm such a friend of you," right? No, I'm going to get shot if I do that, right? Can't do that, right? But I can pray for them. I can pray for the entire system to change. Even if it doesn't change, the energy I send is a good healing energy that's going to be used by the spirits. It's going to be used by the whole universe to make things better for everyone. So it does not matter what's happening. In a way, we need to be proactive in putting our charity to practice. So I brought all the kids in the room. We did a beautiful prayer. we pray for everyone. We pray for everyone, from the president to the guy that gunned the guy down, to the family that the person, to every single person, right, involved in that episode. And I was able to finally break through that cycle of negativity in my mind, and everybody calmed down. It was a great day after that, right? But now, this is exactly what Paul's referring to, right? It's very easy to go, you know what? Oh, this person is here, someone it's like, oh, there's this person came and, they need I don't know, they need a stroller for their kid. Oh, yeah, so I know, it's my friend, I'm going to buy a stroller to that. That's cool. That's very positive and beautiful, right? But that is like 0.1% of what charity really is, right? Because the true charity, that's what Paul is bringing to us, right? And I'll read it again, right? So the true charity is the one that shows beneficence, but the gathering of all qualities of hearts in goodness and benevolence towards everyone, all the time. That's our goal, right? That's where we're going to. Okay? And I'm going to show you a few things that I want to share this story because I think it's worth sharing this story. We can move to the next one. So last year, I had this incredible blessing of visiting Ethiopia for work purposes. I was involved in a program called the Toronto Addis Ababa Academic Cooperation. And this program funds clinicians and scientists from Canada to go to Ethiopia once a year. And we have a chance to teach and help, and well, while I was there, I was actually drawn to other parts of the country, of the city, and this is one of the cities. This is a place called Kora in Addis Ababa. This is where the landfill is of the city, which is basically in the middle of the city, right? There's a very large landfill in the city, and unfortunately, there's many hundreds of families that live off of that landfill, right? So this is the area of Kora. It's a home for like several thousand people. It's actually a lot of people, right? And we can move to the next one. So this is the landfill, as you can see, and actually there's pictures from Kora, the program that I was there for. It's called Hope for Kora, and that's the reality they live in on a daily basis, right? We can move to the next one. This is kind of the scenario where we were. Okay, we can move to the next one. Yeah, that's those are the families, right? That live off that rental. Yeah. So maybe we can play a little video so we can see kind of what's happening there. I'm not sure if it's gonna work, Patrick. Let's give it a try. Well, anyways, while we're loading the video, so the reason why I wanted to bring this is that obviously this is the obvious charity I call, right? This is like the ones that we can see, we can connect to. We feel that we got to do something, right? And I know many of us is involved in projects like that. Teresa is involved also, right? Fertility Without Borders, right? And the Garden Butterflies, and many other of us involved too. But it's just to show you one example of, things we can do, like we can put in action, right, to help out. So basically, when I was invited to this academic collaboration, I also said, you know what, I gotta see what's happening here, right? Because the academic collaboration is different, right? So I'm in the classroom basically teaching people, right? So I stepped out and connected to this charity called Hope for Kora, and I went to their headquarters. Those are the pictures you saw there. And then when I got there, I realized that they don't have dental care, for example, right, for the kids. They provide breakfast, food for thousands of kids. They have after-school programs. They have daycare. They have economic programs. They teach people how to work and get money for the families themselves, right? So there's a cycle they go through. That's okay. We'll go to the next. Just go to the next image. That's fine. Yeah. We can move to the next. That's just the highlights of what they've done. These are all the kids that they support with numerous programs, from housing to feeding to education to work development. And basically, when the family goes through all the cycle, the families basically are self-sufficient. They can actually take care of themselves, and they're not living out of the garbage again, right? So that's the goal of the program, and they've been very, very successful doing that. So when I got there, we can move to the next one. We realized that we can move to the next. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So this is now from my pictures when I got there. So that's the same place we were. I showed the pictures before, right? So I'm taking the picture from the headquarters of the program. So basically, they're literally across the street, right, from the garbage dump. But they actually, this whole infrastructure is funded by Hope of Cora. And when I got there, I was so shocked and I was so connected to it. Like, what can I do, right? I said, maybe I can provide some dental screenings to all these kids, right? So I got with my colleagues there with me. I had 2 students, another staff with me, Joel Rosenblum, great guy, great dentist, and myself. We got there, the 4 of us, plus another dentist that was visiting from another country, from UK. She was there too at the same time. I presented the idea to them. Like, can we go and do something? They're like, of course, right away. So it's really cool. So I brought over 200 kits of toothbrush, toothpaste, and dental stuff to every kid. So I brought in my bag from Canada. And that's what happened there during the day. See all the families lining up for the dental screens, as you can see. We can move to the next one. And so there you go. So we're able to have little mini dental chairs, if you think that way. It's like little plastic chairs, but we had our lights on, we had our kits, we brought the gloves, we brought everything. And we basically were able to screen 200 people on that day between the 5 of us. And it was really interesting because then we realized, wait a minute, like I'm screening, but what's going to happen next, right? Screening is just one step out of the whole picture, right? So I went back to the dental school and I asked the dental school, it's like, listen, I met this people in this program. They didn't even know about it, which I found very interesting, right? They're in the same city. I have, out of those 257 needed dental care urgently, right? So I said, I have 57 people that actually need dental care right away. And the dean of the faculty said, I can help, just bring them over and we'll do something, right? So I connected them. So I connected the nurse of the program and we got some charts for the patients and I brought it all to the faculty and we helped financially support all of that. And I just got news today, got an email from them that all of them were treated, right? So we had 57 people treated out of that. And we're going to go back and screen them again at some point, but we can go to the next one. I don't have it. Oh, we can go back. Sorry, go back to the previous one. So now, but this is not enough, right? And we know that because remember, charity is not, the material charity is one part of it, right? But there's this long-lasting effects of that circle of goodness, right? That have to continue. So now Daniel comes into the picture, right? Because one day his school has a project where the kids get together and they have to create a project that's going to be funded by the school, $500, right? Right, Daniel, 500? 500. Right? So do you want to present that? Do you want to talk about it? Yeah. Come. Yeah.
Okay, so the project of my school is that we have to make a pitch to the judges to present our topic. So mine is education, and I decided for the $500, I was gonna buy pencil cases and kits for everyone to have education. So I'm gonna
in
Cora,
yeah.
I'm gonna help around 30 kids that need help with education.
There you go.
For them to have a chance.
Great job. Yes.
Sorry.
But not only that, now he connected to 6 other kids in school, right, Daniel? And now the kids are also learning about this, so they're kind of moving forward, right, in that action, right? And And we're planning now to have this big trip at some point, not this year, maybe next year, that we're going to go back to core and then implement all those things and engage the kids and kind of move things forward. But that was not enough. I was like, let's do something else, right? So I was able now to secure an ongoing connection relationship between core and the Faculty of Dentistry at Ababa, right? So they're going to have ongoing dental care moving forward, right? And when I go back there next time, I already have other plans, right? Of how can we now engage the dental students from the community with community projects like this one, because they're all there, they're all doing things, but they're completely disconnected, right? All the services happening at the same time. So my next plan is to engage the services in an organized fashion. So the kids in the dental school will have extracurricular activities that are going to be engaging these communities, right? And I think that's going to be our next goal. So we can move to the next one just to finish one more. Okay. Right. So this is one example of how can we change things, but also the consequences of that action, right? So I had one of the students that were with me, the two students that were with me. They came to my office Friday, and one of them gave me she printed out this beautiful book with all the pictures of the trip, right? And I noticed obviously that like half of the pictures in the book were about Cora, right? And then I asked her, like, this is cool. Like, you had a lot of our activities, and then she says, it is a highlight of my trip, and I think I'm forever changed by that, right? So again, we now engaged one more, right, in this idea of real true charity, right? Of like acting in everything, acting towards helping someone, right? Not as Cora is one example, but here in our community too, and all of that, right? So I think that positive, constant engagement of people by action is that's what we're talking about in planetary transition. That's what we're talking about in world regeneration. That's what we're talking about as a society. So it is a process. Now, if you go back to Paul and read it again, it totally makes sense, right? It's not rush. It's kind, right? It's patient, right? And it resists anything, right? That is the process that Paul's now. Now I get it. So at the end of when I was prepared for the lecture, like, Paul, thank you. Because I started the lecture like, oh yeah, this is super cool to read. And then at the end, I was like, okay, that totally makes sense. Now I get it. Thank you. I'm getting there, right? And just to finish now, in this little talk today, there's two things I want to talk about. So the idea of love, this again from the Gospel according to Spiritism. So Allan Kardec is going to say, in the deepest sense of the word, to love means being loyal, honest, conscientious, in order to do unto others what you want done unto you. So this is exactly the concept of action, of charity, right? So loving charity will be this in action, right? That's they're almost interchangeable in that sense, right? It means searching around yourself for the inner meaning of all the hardships that oppress your brothers and sisters, right? So that you may bring them relief. So again, what's love? Exactly that. What can we do to help relieve a tiny little thing of another person, right? And you can find it yourselves in your day, in your work, in your family, in people you don't know, like anything. I was in train station Friday. Actually, funny story. I was reading the book Planetary Transition in the GO train, and I totally passed by my station. So I realized that I was like arriving in Oakville. I should have picked up the car in Clarkson. So I stop in Oakville now to take the train back to Clarkson, right? So I step out and I'm there kind of hanging around. And then this lady behind me starts to, very agitated, talk to someone on the phone. Oh my God, I don't know where's the train. I'm lost. The train's supposed to be here. And she's like, and I'm listening to this. I'm like, what's going on? And then she's like, I don't know what to do. I have to go to Appleby. The train stopped here and all. I instinctively picked up my phone. I have the scheduler, the trip thing in my phone. I was like, oh, it's leaving in 5 minutes, platform 1. And I said, Miss, your train is leaving platform 1 in 5 minutes. She almost like had a heart attack, right? She's all, you can feel that energy is like, what's happening? Because when you help someone, it's such an interesting thing nowadays that people get shocked by it almost, right? It's almost like, oh my God, this thing happened. It's like, no, I literally just told you the schedule. Like I did nothing. I had the schedule on my phone. Of course, I was overhearing the conversation, but I couldn't avoid it though because it was intense, right? It was intense, right? It was it was in a public area, right? It was loud. So, but and she's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." And then she goes back to the phone. Someone just stopped me here, and she said that, and I had to go to the train. I'm like, okay, bye. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, if you think about it, it was nothing, right? I literally just looked at the schedule and told her where to go. But that may have changed a ton for that person, right? We don't know. I don't know what she was so in a rush to get somewhere. I don't know what's happened in her life. Maybe that was the most important thing in her day to get to that place at that time. But how many times we miss those opportunities? That's what I'm trying to get to. How many times we're like, right? We do it all the time, right? And I try, and I'm not saying that I do it all the time. No, I try. Sometimes I miss it, sometimes I ignore it, sometimes I do it. I'm totally hit and miss. I'm not there. Like I'm far away from what Paul's telling us here as possibly imagine, right? But I actually think about it, right? And I think it's the first step into that transition is for you to kind of wait a minute, sure. Maybe that's what I'm called for. I don't know, right? And funny enough, when you start doing it, you realize that it happens all the time. All the time. I have this absolutely random things, like I'm saying good morning to someone, and then all of a sudden, a week later, she was a secretary at the hospital, and she's seated like right in the front of the entrance of the department. And I saw her like behind a computer, like working all the time. And then one day, I actually, it's like, hey, good morning, how are you? And they say, oh, it's like, oh my God, shock. Like the world just ended right there. I don't know. A week later, she actually came to my desk and said, you know what? Thank you for that day. Your good morning meant a lot to me. It was not a good day, right? Not random, right? Probably my mentor was like poking me in the back, hitting me, kicking me to say, you got to do this. You got to do this. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I eventually did it, But you see, again, I may have helped someone in a way that I never thought possible. This is exactly this. So you can bring them relief, something, right? It means regarding the great human family as one's own, right? For you will meet this family in a certain time in more advanced worlds, and the spirits who compose it are, like yourselves, children of God, destined to go forever. And I can list a number of things here. Like one day I was walking outside very, very early in the morning. I saw my neighbor's dog running around. So I came home, picked up a leash, went there, put a leash on him, brought him over to her house. And that's the neighbor that we had some issues before. So another shock. I bring the dog in the front door. I can see her world like collapsing in front of her. Like, how is this possible? Right? What is happening? And she was so worried about, oh my God, what happened to him? Oh, I'm so sorry. I left the gate open. I'm like, that's it. Listen, fine. Totally fine. And literally just bring your dog back. Fine. Right? But again, you don't know. Like these little things can make such an incredible difference. Daniel.
Is that the Scottish Terrier?
That's the terrier. Yeah, exactly. That's the terrier. Okay, we move to the next one. Okay. And just to finalize from the Spirit's book, the exact same concept that we just talked about. What is the true meaning of the word charity as Jesus understood it? The spirits are going to answer exactly like we heard before. Benevolence towards everyone. Right? Everyone. Indulgence towards the imperfections of others and forgiveness for offenses. Right? offenses. Okay, so that's what we had to talk about today. So thank you all very much, and I'm happy to have any questions, comments, anything online or here. Daniel,
What was
have
the
any
puzzle
questions?
piece for?
The puzzle piece, previous one,
Yeah.
because sometimes all this information is like puzzles. You know, you have to bring them together and connect. So how do you connect? You know, the concept of charity with the concept of love with actually doing it, right? That's what Spiritist brings to us, right? Multiple little pieces together.
And
Yeah.
why do many people not do not do it when it's right in front of their face?
That is the question I think we all should think about, because I think this is exactly what God's asking us.
Yeah.
It's very hard, right? But you know what? It's a good question, because if you question that yourself, right, you feel like, why am I not doing things that's right in front of me? I think you're going to be more likely to do it, you know, because you think about it, right? I think that's the first step. Knowing that that's what you have to think about or do it. Okay, cool. Anyone else? No? More. Hey, hands.
I would like to know your opinion about our initiate thought is like, I'm gonna do this charity.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do because later when I die, like I want to see God put it in my screen, like, okay, you did this good, you did this good.
Check.
And like, did you see? Remember that day?
Yeah.
And like at the beginning, you do charity, but because you're thinking like somebody's watching you.
Yes.
And so what is the point where you stop worrying about people watching us and start doing from your part?
That's such a great question, and I can start answering it by concept of education and social development, Pestalozzi. So he tells us that so there's stages in development of the human being, right? So there's a stage that we have no knowledge rules, right? So basically everything comes from the outside. So in other words, we complain about everything because we don't have rules inside of us, right? There's always someone telling us like, don't do this, grab that, do this, right? So we act almost in an automatic way, and we tend to revolt against that because it's not against inside of us, right? And then we go to a more social stage of life where some things are inside of us. So now you start to grasp the idea that I'm doing charity because that's what I have to do, right? But I don't have to be worried about what the outside is concerned about my own concept, right? And then the third step of evolution is that now I'm a person that all those laws and concepts are all inside of me. In other words, I don't think anymore, right? I just do it instinctively, naturally, right? I don't need anyone to tell me, don't speed anymore when you're driving, right? Because it's inside of me, right? You see, we're getting there, right? So the idea of the concept of charity is the same. And obviously at some stages you're going to do it because of some sort of reward mechanism, right? And that's fine. You're doing it. It's not that it's not going to count. Like if you're doing it because of whatever reason, it still counts, right? But that's a stage in that process of evolution that slowly that system is going to go inside of you, right? To a point that you're doing it without even thinking about it. And that's when you become embedded with the laws of God, the laws of God. And that's kind of where the perfection of Jesus is. Like, Jesus is basically the individual where all the laws are inside of him, right? So if you think about that as a beacon of kind of where that represents, so he doesn't need to think or worry about anything, He's like, yeah, it's fine, natural, right? So we're kind of marching towards that, right? So it's perfectly fine for us still today to be like, oh, I got to do this because, I don't know, my boss is going to like it kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, you're still doing the right thing. Kudos, right? But you shouldn't worry too much about it because naturally, and if you think about it, right, that's going to be part of yourself to the point that you don't think about it anymore, right? And that's a normal process, right? It happens to everyone. Teresa has this. Yeah.
No, I think it's nice what you brought to us in terms of charity, because, and I like you brought both sides, because it's easy to see the direction charity, like when you did a choral, like we do at Fraternity Without Borders.
Yeah.
But there's also the ones on the daily basis, and I'm someone who I try to do my best to hold doors to people, like to be aware what's happening inside of me. Yeah. But there's many times that I pass by like,
Oh,
Christian
yes,
brothers.
I know.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Happens
I
all the
missed that one.
time.
I kind of, and in some ways it's nice that when we realize that we missed, because at least I think we had some more. People don't even like walk down the street, don't even probably could drop dead, and the people don't notice and keep going. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
At least I'm noticing that some people dropping dead, and sometimes I stop to help or not.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see it because it is hard, and because people are like, oh, I cannot do anything because it's nice to go there, but I don't have the money to go there and help. I don't have to, right? We don't have to, and even forgiving someone is a charity, right?
Huge.
Anything, so
huge.
That's why it's achievable to everybody, and you're talking about the sensation when you do something good to someone and you change the dirt. It is huge. But then it goes the other way around because you're telling the stories here. And I remember a friend of mine was driving, and a guy just came and cut him off. And then he had to really brake to do not hit the guy. And then just ahead, this guy cuts him off again, and he has to hit his brake again to do not. And then on the third time, he had a really old Beetle, like Fusca. So you know what? I don't care if my car gets smashed because I'm not gonna hold this time. And then he didn't, and he hit the guy. Okay? So when the guy comes out and goes, oh, and I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and he goes, sorry for cutting you off and everything, and he goes, which one? This one or the other two that you did behind? And the guy was genuinely like shocked. It's like, I am so sorry. If I actually cut you before, I didn't notice. I'm having a bad day. I'm actually just going to the hospital right now because there's someone super sick. And this guy didn't notice that he cut himself. And my friend felt horrible.
I know.
Horrible because I could easily have just slammed my brakes and held the car.
Avoided it,
But he couldn't forgive that moment.
I know.
The guy from just killing that third time, right? That's why Jesus made how many times should I? 7 times? 7 times 77. So it goes the other way around when we miss those opportunities. The energy also is not great.
It's bad, right?
Because it goes,
and sometimes we're shown that, right, like your friend, like he just slammed back at you, right? But the fact that you're thinking about, oh, I missed that. That's a huge step, because as you said, like not too long ago, we're like, oh, I don't care about anything, Now we're like, oh, wait, like I gotta do something, right? So that's a huge step, right?
And it's small things. I had someone. I remember one time I bought more than I could handle in the grocery store, and I was trying to carry this whole thing. And a lady was like older than me, so like, let me help, and she actually helped me to carry the thing to the door of the building where I used to live at the time. I was like. It was like an angel, and that's what she did.
It's shocking. I was shocking, right?
She carried my grocery store, my groceries helped it. So we all can do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny, do you have a last question?
My question was, why you know how people they do charity for the reward?
Yes.
Why do some people do charity for the reward when they know there's no reward?
Well, that's an interesting concept. I mean, that's what we all want is to do charity without worrying about reward, right? I think that's all a step into it. Eventually, we're just going to do it because we don't think about it. That's what we have to do, right? We're getting there.
No, but some people think that they do charity for a reward when they already know that there's no reward.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's a step into that process, right?
I'm sorry, Messi.
Yeah, it's okay. No, you're not. Okay. All right. So let's finish for today, and thank you all that followed us online. We're gonna do our passes now, right? And I think that's pretty much it, right? Thank you.